Well, here we go. Phase 2, or part 2, on a parcel of property that, you know, we started hunting, and one of the things that we learned over time is that it takes 2 or 3 years to get intimate with a piece of property, understanding exactly where the deer are bedding and where they're planning on feeding, and then crop rotation in and around that parcel of property can change that from year to year. So you really have to kind of be a student of the game. And that's exactly what we've been doing here on this particular piece. In phase 2, we feel like we're kind of bringing things together. The first year, I think we picked up something like 4 or 5 sheds. This year, we picked up 16 sheds. So we've got a few more deer living here, staying here, and wintering here. And a lot of that is because of the food source. And if you recall early on, the very first thing that I talked about when I walked over that hill and I looked at this particular parcel was the fact that the bottom was fairly open. When you've got a big bottom area like this, it's really, really difficult to get a whitetail to walk across this during daylight hours. It's just too big, it's too expansive. They may trot across it during the rut, but it's something they don't feel very comfortable in. So we're gonna plant food here, and we're gonna use the corn as structure. You know, that 11, 12 foot of corn, that extra height gives them a little bit more security. Hopefully we'll be able to get all the corn in within the next day or so. We're gonna burn everything first. We're gonna burn it off with chemical, and then we'll start tearing it up, and then we're gonna broadcast our beans on top. We'll drag something over the top of them, and we can make this thing work. Once we did that, we picked a spot while the bottom was open, literally went to an area where the most sign, the most droppings, the most tracks, and that's exactly where we put the muddy bull blind on the Omega Lift trailer, and we said right here is the spot, and then we planted accordingly. And now we created an outside corner so that those deer had to go in either direction to see around one end or the other, and it worked out absolutely perfect. All of a sudden, we've got pictures of more and more and more deer that are staying there and living on that particular parcel. Got some pretty good up and coming bucks, and we're pretty happy that things are looking up and developing quite well.
One of the things that I like about this bottom field on the 248 is how far removed it is from any intrusion. Literally, the only thing that's going to affect the deer movement coming in and out of that plot is either human intrusion because you're going in there on the wrong winds or going in there at the wrong times, or wild critters. Through the years, on farms that have new food, they get better through time. This one's like a fine wine. It's going to do nothing but get better through time.
This thing from an aerial position, you know, we took the drone in there as we were planting, and then once the corn was up, we kind of wanted to showcase and exactly give you an idea what it looks like and why the deer would be in there, why the turkeys would be in there. When you have a food source like that, and you kind of get a 10,000 foot view of that, you understand where the bedding is, where the food's at, where they might be looking for a mast crop. You know, this one hillside to the west has got, you know, a lot of white oak trees, red oak trees, black oak, so it's really a bevy of acorns in addition to the cover that you got on the east side, and you got a food source right in the middle, so it's sandwiched between those two. It is the optimum conditions for a whitetail. In addition to that, we planted a guest row. We came in 12 rows with our 4-row planter, spaced it out just a little bit more, so we could literally go from one end of that bottom all the way to that blind without being detected. One of the best things we've ever done was creating that guest row, a really slick way to get in and out. Then we're up into the timber, looking at a lot of the sign and some giant rubs that are popping up there. So this bedding is extremely important in addition to the food source that we planted. We've got green and we've got grain. So this one's really shaping up quite nicely. It's one of the most game-rich little farms I've ever been on, and this is one you might be pretty interested in.
Preseason scouting. We really haven't had the best weather for it here recently, but this morning is pretty nice. It's a little bit foggy, but they're gobbling their brains out this morning. I've heard 15 different birds gobbling. There's about 5 or 6 of them right around our blind, right at the bottom, right where we've been hunting. So fingers crossed they stay there, and we'll go in there and whack a couple of them.
I kind of hate to see Terry selling this farm because it is one of my favorite places. I've gone there several times, and I don't think I've ever been there more than an hour that I didn't have a turkey within gun range. It is literally off the charts for turkey, and it's even better for whitetail deer.
One to the left.
Here, take this camera.
Here's an opportunity, and we've talked about it last turkey season. After we went in there and we got fortunate enough to bop 2 big old gobblers out of there, Forrest and I both did. After that, we talked briefly about the options as a hunter, whether you want to lease properties or whether you want to buy properties. Well, this is one that we're going to be making available. If you go on to Whitetail Properties and check their link, you'll learn a little bit more about it. We've never done this before where we offered it up for someone to come in and take a look at it and say, you know what, I'd love to own a piece just like that, but here's your opportunity, here's your chance.